The miracle doctor won't be a kept man. My heart belongs ashore. Chapter 911. Kiran York and Yvonne Quinn quickly turned towards Macy Wendell. Macy's beautiful face was filled with anger, as if someone had stolen her most precious treasure. "What are you doing here?" Kiran asked, looking at Macy. Macy's gaze fixed on Kiran's face before turning to the solidified jade stones. Her eyes were filled with fury. "Damn it. I sacrificed my body and waited for so many years only for you to obtain it. What do you mean? What's yours?" Yvonne's voice was cold as she looked at Macy and sneered. "Those who are virtuous will gain it, and those who aren't will never be fated to have it. It's because you're so ruthless, killing your own husband. Even the heavens hate you." "Shut up, or I'll kill you." Macy was infuriated by Yvonne's taunts. "You want to kill me? You need the ability to do that first? Do you think we're that easy to kill?" Yvonne, feeling her energy growing stronger, was full of confidence. "Did you kill Randall Carter for this Dragon Saliva?" Kiran's tone was icy as he watched Macy. "My matters with Randall are none of your concern. Now, I just want to confirm if the power of the Dragon Saliva here has been absorbed by you two," Macy demanded, staring at Kiran and Yvonne. "We absorbed it. Can't you see how much we've changed?" Yvonne said with a smug look, deliberately provoking Macy. Macy's clenched fists made cracking sounds as she glared at Kiran. "I had taken Sophia Carter away, hoping you two would cooperate and let me absorb this power, allowing you to have Sophia. Yet, you ended up with Yvonne. Do you know that the method requires a man and a woman to be together?" Kiran asked Macy. "It's not just about being together. More importantly, the two must be heart to heart and soul to soul," Macy said, glancing at Kiran and Yvonne. "You two, because of the love spell, ended up achieving it. Heaven naturally helps those who are truly in love. Are you envious, jealous, and hateful?" Yvonne said, feeling happy and deliberately provoking Macy. Macy's face was full of anger. "Why didn't you come here with Randall? If you two absorbed it together, it might have worked." Yvonne laughed mockingly at Macy, further inciting her anger. "You knew about the Dragon Saliva here. Why didn't you come earlier to take it?" Kiran asked curiously. "The Dragon Saliva isn't something everyone can take. More importantly, many people can't even get here," Macy said thoughtfully. "I've longed for the Dragon Saliva for many years. When I went to Maui, I wanted to find the Maui tribe's Dragon Saliva, but I was too late. It had already turned into jade. Are you saying this Dragon Saliva goes through a gradual growth process?" Kiran asked in surprise. "The power of the Dragon Saliva, if not absorbed, remains in liquid form. But once absorbed, those who take its power, whether humans or animals, undergo mutations," Macy explained solemnly. Kiran suddenly remembered the monsters he had encountered, the piranhas, and the many snakes on Dragon's Mount. Could they have transformed because they absorbed the power of the Dragon Saliva? If so, it all made sense. He tested his strength by clenching his fist, feeling the overwhelming power within him, much stronger than before. If he were to fight the Ninja Association again, he was confident he could kill them without getting injured. Could this be the power of the Dragon Saliva? The thought filled Kiran with joy. "Perhaps this is destiny." Macy sighed, her face showing a mix of anger and frustration. "When Randall took advantage of you, did you spare him because you discovered this map on him?" Yvonne asked Macy. "So, you found the map on Randall and came here?" Macy retorted, her eyes full of disappointment. Yvonne nodded honestly. "We were curious about the mountain map on Randall's back and stumbled upon this place by accident." Macy sighed again. "It seems this is destiny. Destiny isn't on my side. All my efforts have been in vain." She looked at Kiran and Yvonne. "I've maintained my 20-year-old appearance for countless reincarnations, all to find the Dragon Saliva and transform myself completely. Yet, Randall ruined my body, and now, at this critical moment, I've lost the Dragon Saliva." Macy looked around, her expression turning bleak. "Perhaps this is fate. It's truly not meant for me." "Who exactly are you? How do you know so much?" Kiran raised his voice at Macy. "Who I am doesn't matter anymore. The power in your bodies is already fused with you. I can't take it back," Macy sighed. "Knowing my identity now would only bring me greater humiliation." "Are you the real Goo Witch?" Yvonne speculated. "It doesn't matter anymore. From now on, you won't see me again," Macy said to Kiran. "When you leave, take Sophia at the entrance and bring her back. Tell Joshua and Sophia that Randall must die. I killed him so he could die peacefully. Otherwise, he will live in torment, unable to live or die. I never loved Randall. He destroyed me, and I endured all these years for my own purposes." Kiran watched Macy, unsure of how to respond. With a sorrowful smile, Macy continued, "You should go. I will stay here from now on and won't leave. Do you want to protect the dragon vein here? Kiran asked. Since it's not meant for me, I will guard it for life, Macy said, looking at the dragon vein. Work hard. There will be many challenges ahead. Never forget that you're from Dragon's Land and must care for the world. Turning to Yvonne, Macy said, the toxins in your body are mixed and chaotic, damaging you. Absorbing the dragon vein's power will repair you. I give you the heavenly silkworm goo. You can cultivate it slowly. With that, Macy took out a white silkworm from her body and carefully handed it to Yvonne. Chapter 912. When Yvonne Quinn heard that it was the heavenly silkworm goo, her face lit up with joy, and she reached out to take it. However, as if blown by the wind, she was suddenly pulled into Kiran York's arms. Smack! A crisp sound echoed in her ears. Ah! Macy Wendell cried out in pain, her gaze filled with resentment as she looked at Kiran. Yvonne didn't understand why Kiran had pulled her away and knocked the heavenly silkworm goo from Macy's hand. However, she instinctively trusted Kiran and leaned into his embrace. Macy quickly regained her composure and smiled at Kiran. It seems you care a lot about Yvonne and don't want her to suffer from the goo poison anymore? Kiran sneered but said nothing. Macy turned to Yvonne and said, Kiran likes you a lot. You should feel happy and cherish him. Hearing Macy's comment, Yvonne's face showed genuine happiness. Have you had enough of your act? If so, get lost, Kiran said coldly to Macy without any mercy. Macy's expression changed slightly, but she suppressed her anger and tried to smile. Why are you so hostile? Do you think I can harm you? Don't you think you're harming us? Kiran sneered. What kind of woman kills her husband, especially one she's been intimate with? His tone was filled with mockery and disdain. He pointed to the white goo worm on the ground. Whether it's a real heavenly silkworm goo or not, you don't have good intentions. You just want Yvonne to take the goo poison so you can extract the Dragon Saliva's power from her. Yvonne's face turned pale, and she instinctively clung tighter to Kiran. Macy's expression shifted several times, clearly not expecting Kiran to guess her plan. However, she quickly composed herself and smiled. You think too much. I just wanted to give her the goo worm. Think too much? You know the truth, Kiran said, watching Macy closely. You even suggested I be with Sophia to obtain the Dragon Saliva. Yvonne and I absorbed it just now, proving that it requires a heartfelt connection between a man and a woman. Someone like you can't achieve that, so you have to rely on another woman. Yvonne or Sophia is the best option. Macy's face darkened completely. Kiran, I didn't realize you're so clever. You saw through everything. Yvonne's expression changed several times, filled with self-reproach for almost being deceived. Macy's gaze turned icy as she looked at Kiran and Yvonne. If you know what's good for you, give me the power of the Dragon Saliva. Otherwise, neither of you will fare well. Yvonne's face turned grim, but before she could speak, Kiran stepped forward towards. Macy's eyes were sharp as she watched Kiran. Don't provoke me, or you'll regret it. Make me regret it. As Kiran's words fell, he struck Macy's face. For some people, you could show mercy, but for someone like Macy who could kill her own husband, Kiran had no hesitation. Macy's face was full of anger. She raised her hand to counterattack. Bang! The sound echoed through the air. Macy's body flew backward, crashing into the cave wall and falling to the ground. Cough. Cough. Macy coughed, spitting out blood, and looked at Kiran with a pale face. Kiran stood still, not moving a muscle, feeling the immense power of the Dragon Saliva within him. He didn't continue attacking, but watched Macy. Macy took a few deep breaths to calm herself and sneered at Kiran. Impressive. The power of the Dragon Saliva is indeed remarkable. Kiran and Yvonne were surprised at Macy's calmness after being hit. Macy stood up straight and looked at Kiran. If you give me the power of the Dragon Saliva, I can guarantee your safety. Kiran and Yvonne both thought, fool. Clearly, Macy was no match for Kiran, yet she repeatedly demanded the Dragon Saliva's power. What a fool. Ignoring their mocking looks, Macy remained calm. If you don't give me the power of the Dragon Saliva, neither of you will find peace. Go to hell! Kiran couldn't control his anger anymore. He cursed and advanced on Macy again. Macy's body mysteriously flickered and vanished. Kiran's palm struck empty air, and he looked around in surprise. Was this ninjutsu? Kiran, you can't kill me. If you don't give me the power of the Dragon Saliva, I'll haunt you forever. Macy's voice echoed in the air. Are you Lady Meiji? Yvonne asked the air. Who I am doesn't matter. What's important is you give me the Dragon Saliva or you'll never have peace, Macy insisted. What is your connection with the Goo Witch and Lady Meiji? Kiran demanded. Guess all you want, I won't tell you. Ha ha. I only want the Dragon Saliva's power, Macy laughed triumphantly. Kiran's face grew colder. Do you want to die? Kiran struck at the air. Boom! The air echoed with a heavy sound. Macy dodged, her face filled with a triumphant smile. If you destroy this place, it's the dragon vein. Will you regret it? Kiran hesitated. This was indeed the dragon vein. He couldn't risk damaging it. Seeing Kiran hesitate, Macy became more confident. If you don't give me the power of the dragon saliva, I'll destroy the dragon vein. Yvonne looked at Kiran in shock. Kiran's face showed a range of emotions as he suppressed his anger. Keep dreaming. He grabbed Yvonne's hand and turned to leave. Macy didn't expect this. Kiran, don't you want to protect the dragon vein? Kiran didn't respond and quickened his pace. Seeing Kiran's silhouette fading, Macy realized he was going to find Sophia. Kiran, you are so devious! Macy appeared and chased after him. Chapter 913. Kiran York and Yvonne Quinn quickened their pace towards the cave entrance. This time they had turned on their phone flashlights, so the light was bright, making it easy to see Sophia Carter lying at the entrance. Kiran hurried forward and picked up Sophia. Kiran, what are you going to do with Sophia? Macy Wendell rushed out, shouting as she ran. None of your business. Kiran replied domineeringly. He ignored Macy entirely and even lowered his head to kiss Sophia. Seeing this, Macy, like she was stung by a bee, shouted anxiously, You are not allowed to kiss Sophia! Yvonne stepped forward and stood between Kiran and Macy. She realized that Macy didn't love Joshua Carter but could give birth to Sophia, which must have had a deeper purpose. Now, Kiran kissing Sophia was a way to strike back at Macy. Yvonne instinctively wanted to cooperate with Kiran. You all should die, Macy exploded with rage. Her body suddenly seemed to grow several times larger, and a vast power swept toward Kiran and Yvonne. Feeling strong after absorbing the dragon saliva, Yvonne raised her hands, trying to resist. Boom! A collision sound echoed. Yvonne felt as if she had encountered a tremendous wave, and her body was blown backward as if by a violent wind. Whoosh! Kiran leaped forward, holding Sophia, and caught Yvonne around the waist. Kiran swung his right palm, striking Macy's back. Crack! The air resounded like thunder. Macy's body quickly returned to its original state, and Kiran, holding both women, took 3 steps back, his face pale. Macy's true strength was more formidable than Kiran had anticipated. Woo! Macy exhaled a breath, her gaze cold as she looked at Kiran. Not bad, your abilities are impressive. Her eyes showed no fear but were filled with passion. If it weren't for you absorbing the dragon saliva's power, you wouldn't stand a chance. Kiran stared at Macy. Do you have anything else to say? Put down Sophia and give me your dragon saliva power. I guarantee you and Yvonne will live peacefully, Macy said calmly as if she controlled Kiran's fate. Do you think I'd believe a treacherous woman who killed her husband? Kiran said, lowering his head to kiss Sophia again. Macy became agitated and rushed at Kiran like a meteor. Kiran sneered and struck back. Boom! The air echoed again as both of them were pushed back. Macy's strength far exceeded Kiran and Yvonne's expectations. However, Macy seemed more interested in Kiran's newfound strength, her eyes glowing with desire like a woman infatuated with her beloved man. However, Macy didn't love Kiran. She wanted the dragon saliva power within him. Now you can tell me who you really are, Kiran said, holding Sophia tighter and staring at Macy. Sophia seemed like a hostage, completely unaware of the situation. Fortunately, she was unconscious and didn't know what was happening. She seemed like a key to Macy's fate, causing Macy to be deeply conflicted and angry. Kiran, knowing too much isn't always good. I suggest you mind your own business, Macy sneered. I have something to tell you too, Kiran said, his gaze sharp. What do you want to tell me? If you don't reveal your identity today, Sophia will become my woman. You have a love spell. Do you think you can sleep with Sophia? Macy sneered, completely disbelieving. I do have a love spell, but I can still take her lifeblood, Kiran said, looking at Sophia's red lips. Macy's face turned pale, filled with tension. Kiran, if you do that, isn't it very devious? Sue Walton took my lifeblood. Now I can take Sophia's lifeblood. Isn't that better? Kiran said, deliberately watching Macy. Macy's eyes flashed with complexity. So you are the real goo witch? Kiran asked Macy. Macy's expression changed several times. Did you make Sue the goo witch because you lost your purity? Kiran continued. Macy's face turned cold, filled with killing intent. No wonder you have such a destiny. You are indeed clever. I am the goo witch. I can keep reviving because of the heavenly silkworm goo, Macy said, pausing as if lost in painful memories. Yvonne's face showed joy. The goo witch was a legend in the Maui tribe. She was eager to know more about the goo witch. The goo witch must remain pure. But Randall ruined me, Macy said with anger and hatred. So you made Sue the Goo Witch? Kiran asked. Macy looked at the sky, her face solemn. According to the Goo Witch's vow, if she marries, she will be devoured by the ancient goo and die miserably. I wanted to kill Randall and was in deep pain, but I didn't want to die. So I made Sue the Goo Witch and promised to choose a new successor. Macy glanced at Sophia, saying everything without words. Kiran now understood that Macy intended to have a daughter to replace her as the Goo Witch. He sneered at Macy. Do you want to ruin Sophia's life? I don't want to ruin her life. I want the Dragon Saliva's power to kill all the goo poison in me, Macy said, staring at Kiran. If you give me the Dragon Saliva's power, I guarantee Sophia won't become the Goo Witch, and I can ensure your safety. No one believes you, Kiran said coldly. What's your connection with Lady Meiji? Macy's face changed again when Kiran mentioned Lady Meiji. Are you two old immortals enhancing each other? Kiran asked with anger and doubt. Hearing the term old immortals, Macy became furious. Kiran, be careful not to offend too many people. You won't die well. It's easier for me to kill you, Kiran said, leaning down to kiss Sophia. Chapter 914. You can't take her life, be blood! Macy Wendell was frantic as she attacked Kiran York again. Understanding everything now, Yvonne Quinn threw herself at Macy to intercept her. Meanwhile, Kiran actually kissed Sophia Carter, biting her tongue to draw blood. Feeling the pain, Sophia opened her eyes. Seeing a man kissing her, she instinctively became angry and tried to push him away. When her beautiful eyes soon recognized Kiran, she was overjoyed, wrapping her arms around his neck and responding passionately. Kiran didn't hesitate and continued to kiss her, absorbing her lifeblood. Lifeblood is the essence of a person's soul, but it doesn't affect their health. However, once controlled, the person becomes more enamored with the other. Sophia had always secretly loved Kiran but had never dared to confess. Now, even though her lifeblood was taken, she didn't know it. Seeing the blood at the corner of Sophia's mouth, Macy knew Kiran had absorbed her lifeblood. Enraged, she struck Yvonne with a powerful blow. Yvonne couldn't avoid it and was knocked back, flying through the air. Kiran, holding Sophia, leaped and caught Yvonne in midair. He hit Yvonne on her back several times, causing her to spit out blood, but her injuries were not severe. Kiran released Sophia and Yvonne, then fixed his sharp gaze on Macy. Macy's eyes burned with rage and desperation. Sophia was her hope, someone she wanted to cultivate into the next Goo Witch. She couldn't believe Kiran had taken her lifeblood, making her a mere shell and Kiran's subordinate. Macy felt her dreams shatter and was terrified of her own deadly vow. Kiran, you'll die a horrible death, she spat before attempting to leave. You won't live past today, Kiran said coldly, advancing on her with a fierce palm strike. Fury flashed in Macy's eyes as she met his attack. Their palms clashed and Macy was sent flying back. Kiran pursued like a meteor, relentlessly attacking Macy. Her body seemed to withstand the pounding waves, continually spitting blood. Sophia had regained her composure and was stunned by the scene. She shouted, "That's my mother!" "She killed your father," Yvonne told Sophia. "What?" Sophia was thunderstruck, unable to believe it. "No, it can't be," she murmured, swaying like a willow in a storm. She had seen her mother earlier, but now she was in disbelief. Yvonne, feeling sorry for Sophia, held her tightly. "You'll understand when you get home." Sophia's body felt drained and she collapsed in a daze, unsure if she was crying or if her heart was breaking. Meanwhile, Kiran and Macy's battle raged on. Macy seemed indestructible, withstanding Kiran's powerful strikes, yet always managing to rise again. "I didn't expect the heavenly silkworm goo to have such amazing effects," Kiran remarked. "If you don't let me go, I'll take you down with me," Macy threatened, her eyes filled with hatred. "You think you can leave here?" Kiran sneered, launching another powerful strike at her. This blow contained all his strength, embodying an overwhelming force. Kiran wanted to end Macy's life. Just as his hand was about to connect, he suddenly saw Lady Meiji's sinister smile in his mind. The shock caused him to hesitate, and Macy managed to slip away. When Kiran realized what had happened, Macy had already vanished. He rushed back to the cave entrance to find Yvonne and Sophia. Sophia lay unconscious on the ground, but Yvonne was gone. Kiran quickly woke Sophia. Sophia, with tears streaming down her face, clung to Kiran. "Why did she kill my father? Why did she knock me out?" Kiran couldn't explain, wanting to say Macy wasn't human, but he held back. He asked Sophia, "Do you know where they went?" Sophia shook her head blankly. "Kiran, if you don't want to die, use your Dragon Saliva power to save Yvonne," Macy's voice echoed from Kiran Mountain. "If you anger me, I'll kill Yvonne, and if she dies, so will you." Macy's laughter echoed, causing Sophia even more pain. She couldn't reconcile this voice with her once gentle mother. Kiran tried to calm himself, seeking a mental connection with Yvonne, but she was unconscious. Furious, Kiran stomped his foot. "What do we do now?" Sophia asked him. "I'll take you home first," Kiran said, picking her up and heading down the mountain, hurrying back to the Carter residence. He was in a hurry to find Yvonne. Sophia arrived home to a somber atmosphere and called her brother. Learning he was at the funeral home, she rushed there. Kiran, however, stayed at the Carter residence and searched Macy's room for clues, finding nothing. He was both shocked and angry at Macy's caution. He prepared to return to Kiran Mountain to search for Yvonne. As he turned to leave, he saw a woman's face in the mirror, staring at him coldly. It was Lady Macy's familiar face. "What is your connection with Macy Wendell?" Kiran demanded. "If you want to know, don't forget our 1-month agreement or you'll regret it." Lady Macy's face disappeared from the mirror. Kiran clenched his fists in frustration. At that moment, his phone rang. It was Lillian Yanes, whom he hadn't heard from in a long time. Chapter 915. "Is everything okay over there?" Kiran York answered the phone, immediately thinking about Snow Xander's safety, and asked urgently. Lillian Yanes felt uncomfortable hearing his concern and coldly replied, "Can't I call you without something being wrong?" Kiran relaxed upon hearing her question and quickly explained, "I'm worried about Snow. Yvonne Quinn was just kidnapped and I'm feeling anxious." "Seems like you're doing well, caring for both your wife and Yvonne," Lillian said, her tone dripping with sarcasm and mild annoyance. Kiran didn't get angry. Instead, he replied earnestly, "Yvonne being taken is dangerous. If something happens to her, we both have the life and death bond. We won't die. What are you afraid of?" Lillian interrupted coldly. Kiran fell silent, knowing the bond's importance but uncertain if it could truly be relied upon. Lillian, not hearing a response from Kiran, said icily, "You're probably falling for Yvonne, and that's why you're so troubled, right?" "That's not it. Besides Snow, I haven't thought about any other women," Kiran explained anxiously. Lillian was even more annoyed, feeling overlooked. "So, I'm just another woman to you? Should I bring Snow to you now?" "Not now. I need to find Yvonne. I might have to go to Sunland again," Kiran replied quickly. "How unfortunate." "Snow and I are already at the airport about to board the plane," Lillian said. "You're coming to Dragon City?" Kiran was surprised. "Honey, did you miss me?" Snow's sweet voice came from the other side. Hearing Snow's voice, Kiran felt a sweetness in his heart, like tasting honey. Her voice always mesmerized him, filled him with love, and haunted his thoughts. "Didn't you hear me?" Snow asked, her tone filled with disappointment. "I heard you. I'm so happy," Kiran quickly explained, his voice filled with excitement. "When will you arrive?" "I'll come to pick you up." Snow was delighted to hear this. "We'll arrive in Dragon City in about 3 hours." "Great, I'll be at the airport waiting for you." Kiran glanced at the time. It was already 2 a.m. They would arrive around 5 a.m. "Get some rest. Don't wear yourself out," Snow reminded him with concern. "Don't worry about me. You both stay safe," Kiran advised before hanging up and hurrying back to Lindsay Ludwig's villa. When he arrived, the house was dark. Lindsay and her parents were already asleep. Kiran entered and went straight to Lindsay's room. Lindsay was lying in bed, unable to sleep, tossing and turning. Seeing someone enter, she initially thought it was a burglar and instinctively prepared to scream, but she quickly recognized Kiran and excitedly sat up. "Did I wake you?" Kiran asked as he approached, about to turn on the light. "Don't turn on the light!" Lindsay whispered sweetly. Kiran complied and walked over, saying, "I have 2 things to tell you." Before he could finish, Lindsay threw her arms around him, hugging him tightly. "I can't sleep alone. I have insomnia," she whispered in his ear, trembling slightly. Feeling a pang of heartache, Kiran continued. "First, Yvonne Quinn was kidnapped and is missing." Lindsay trembled with anxiety, pushing against Kiran's chest to sit up. "Is she in danger?" "It's unclear," Kiran said, shaking his head. "What should we do?" Lindsay asked, worried. "I'll find a way to rescue her. Don't worry. The second thing is, I need to borrow a car," Kiran said. "Why do you need a car?" Lindsay asked. "Snow is coming to Dragon City and I need to pick her up from the airport," Kiran explained. Hearing this, Lindsay felt a wave of disappointment. With Snow around, her chances with Kiran would be even slimmer. Though the darkness hid Lindsay's expression, Kiran sensed her disappointment. He gently patted her shoulder, saying, "I have the love spell. Loving me only brings you pain." "I'd rather suffer forever to be with you," Lindsay said, jumping out of bed and turning on the bedside lamp. She then began to undress in front of Kiran. "What are you doing?" Kiran turned away, startled. Lindsay smiled slyly and opened her wardrobe to find clothes. Kiran breathed a sigh of relief and looked back at her. "Why aren't you sleeping?" I'm going with you to pick up snow, Lindsay said with a bitter smile. Kiran knew Lindsay wanted to spend more time with him. Feeling a deep sorrow for her but unable to say anything, he remained silent. 15 minutes later, Lindsay, dressed and with makeup on, joined Kiran in the car. I'm not sleeping well lately and have bags under my eyes. I might look old soon, Lindsay complained, her tone filled with resentment and unease. I'll help you adjust your health later, Kiran said as he drove, trying to comfort her. Unless you sleep with me, I doubt I'll feel better, Lindsay said, looking at Kiran with hopeful eyes. Kiran, feeling helpless, shook his head and said nothing. Lindsay, no longer arguing, sat quietly. Kiran started the car and sped towards the airport. He was eager to see Snow and Lillian to discuss how to find Yvonne. He couldn't risk their lives for Yvonne's. One life concerned 3 lives. Who could afford that gamble? As they rushed to the airport, a black car sped ahead of them. It was just as fast as Kiran's luxury car. Kiran watched the black car with a frown, curious. He followed the black car closely, and within half an hour they reached the airport. The black car stopped and a woman stepped out, catching Kiran's eye. Chapter 916. Who is that woman? She's so pretty, Lindsay Ludwig remarked with a hint of annoyance in her voice as she saw Kiran York's eyes light up. Stay in the car and don't move, Kiran said as he quickly unbuckled his seatbelt and headed towards the woman. Lindsay, not knowing who the woman was, felt even more displeased. She thought Kiran was too easily swayed by beautiful women and was being too greedy. She angrily shook her fist at Kiran's back as he quickly approached the woman, covering the distance in just a few steps. Just as Kiran was about to reach the woman, she suddenly turned around, causing his hand to freeze mid-air. He quickly withdrew it, realizing that the woman was actually Macy Wendell in disguise. As Kiran stood there, stunned, the woman walked briskly into the airport terminal. Taking a deep breath, Kiran's face showed his anger as he charged after her. The woman suddenly shouted, "Help! There's a pervert!" Her piercing cry woke up many sleepy travelers in the terminal, and everyone turned to look, alert and curious. Kiran had already grabbed the woman's shoulder and reached for her face, suspecting she was wearing a mask. However, he found nothing. "Help! Pervert!" the woman screamed again. The onlookers, seeing such a beautiful woman being harassed, grew angry. Some even began shouting for the authorities to arrest Kiran. This man is shameless, groping a woman in public. Disgusting behavior. He must be punished severely. The crowd began to close in on Kiran, who remained resolute and did not let go of the woman. The woman, seeing this, started crying and shouting for help even louder. Suddenly, Lindsay appeared and shouted at her, "You're a homewrecker, seducing my husband and now trying to frame him." Lindsay, who had followed them in, quickly caught on when she saw the scene. To add to the effect, Lindsay rolled up her sleeves, ready to confront the woman physically. This confused the onlookers, who now saw it as a classic wife against mistress situation. Seeing Lindsay's beauty and confidence, many in the crowd started to believe her, and their support for the woman wavered. The pressure on Kiran eased considerably. The woman, taken aback by Lindsay's quick thinking, hesitated but soon regained her composure and looked at Kiran with icy eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said coolly. Kiran's gaze was cold and unyielding. "If you don't tell me where Yvonne Quinn is, I won't be polite." The woman remained calm, saying, "I don't know what nonsense you're talking about." Kiran's determination only grew. "Don't act dumb. If you don't tell me where Yvonne is, I won't be polite." "You think you can scare me?" the woman retorted, her eyes full of disdain. At that moment, an announcement came over the airport PA system. "The flight to Sunland is about to depart in 5 minutes. All passengers, please board immediately." Hearing this, Kiran's eyes widened in realization. He looked at the woman in fury. "You're playing games with me?" Enraged, he raised his hand to strike the woman. The woman blocked his attack, and the sound of their clash echoed through the terminal. Both stepped back, creating a tense standoff. "Where is Yvonne?" Kiran demanded, turning to Lindsay. "Contact the flight to Sunland. Yvonne might be on that plane." Without hesitation, Lindsay ran to the airport management office. The woman smirked at Kiran. "You're smart, but being too smart isn't always a good thing. Macy Wendell, if you don't give me Yvonne, I'll kill you," Kiran said, his face dark with anger. The woman remained unfazed. "You can't stop me, and you won't find Yvonne. Don't waste your time." "Then don't blame me for being impolite," Kiran said, launching another strike at her. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" the woman shouted, meeting his attack. Kiran suddenly changed his approach, reaching for the woman's abdomen. "You plan to molest me?" The woman cried, trying to dodge. Kiran swiftly fired a silver needle at her abdomen. The woman, not expecting this, tried to jump away. "Got you!" Kiran's body blurred as he moved behind her, striking her back with a powerful palm. The woman staggered back, blood spraying from her mouth. Her face began to change, revealing her true identity, Macy Wendell. Macy clutched her chest, wiping the blood from her mouth. "You despicable man," she spat. Kiran remained expressionless. "Where is Yvonne? If you don't tell me, you die." "If you kill me, Yvonne will surely die," Macy retorted. Found her, Lindsay's voice called out as she helped Yvonne Quinn walk towards them. Seeing Yvonne pale but safe, Kiran finally relaxed. "You've gone too far, Kiran. This isn't over." Macy shouted angrily before turning to flee. Kiran didn't chase her but went to support Yvonne, whose body felt weak and boneless as she leaned into his arms. Kiran noticed something odd about Yvonne's condition. Chapter 917. Yvonne Quinn's body, which had previously been icy cold, had started to return to normal, even becoming a bit warm after absorbing the Dragon Saliva's power. However, as Kiran York held her now, she was once again freezing. Kiran checked Yvonne's pulse, shocked to find that the Dragon Saliva's power was gone. His face turned grim and serious. "I'm so cold," Yvonne muttered, clutching tightly to Kiran, seeking warmth. Kiran supported Yvonne and led her out of the terminal towards the car. Lindsay Ludwig followed anxiously. Once inside the car, Yvonne shivered uncontrollably like a child, curling up in Kiran's arms. "Kiran, what's happening to my sister?" Lindsay asked, concerned. Kiran didn't respond immediately. He focused on transferring some of his internal energy to Yvonne, hoping to warm her up. This temporarily alleviated her shivering, giving her some vitality. Lindsay felt a bit relieved but remained worried. Kiran's expression, however, was still very serious. He had a bad feeling. Macy Wendell not only knew his whereabouts but also seemed to be using a method designed to gradually drain his internal energy. The energy he had just transferred into Yvonne quickly dissipated, and she began to feel cold again. Kiran was bewildered and worried. He quickly took out silver needles and inserted several into Yvonne's body, trying to diagnose her condition while transferring more energy. To his astonishment, the needles seemed to penetrate nothing, as if they passed through an empty void. Kiran's curiosity and concern deepened. After a moment's hesitation, he turned to Lindsay. "You stay here and pick up Snow, Xander, and Lillian Giannis for me. I need to take Yvonne back home to find a way to treat her." Lindsay, seeing Yvonne's unusual condition, nodded frantically. "Hurry and save my sister." Kiran nodded, and Lindsay got out of the car. Kiran drove back to the city, Yvonne lying in the back seat, constantly crying out about the cold, as if she might freeze to death at any moment. Kiran's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes burning with rage. His hatred for Macy Wendell grew deeper by the moment. In less than 20 minutes, Kiran arrived back in the city. He drove straight to the Carter residence. Joshua Carter and Sophia Carter were busy with their father's funeral, leaving the house empty. Kiran carried Yvonne directly to Macy's room. Pushing open the door, he was surprised to find Macy sitting on the bed. "You old witch!" Kiran shouted angrily. "You're not entirely stupid coming here to find me," Macy said with a mocking smile. "Now, if you give me the Dragon Saliva's power, I can guarantee both of you will survive, otherwise I'll drain you dry." "Did you take the Dragon Saliva's power from Yvonne's body?" Kiran asked coldly. "How did you do it? How I did it isn't your concern. Just tell me whether you'll give it to me or not," Macy replied confidently. "Do you think I would?" Kiran placed Yvonne on a nearby chair. Macy remained unfazed by Kiran's actions. "I know you won't give it to me, but it doesn't matter. Yvonne's life is in your hands now. Like Helides." Kiran suddenly became enraged and slapped Macy. The previously calm Macy grew agitated. "Kiran, don't be so reckless." She suddenly hurled a white light at Kiran. "Die!" Kiran caught the white light, feeling a cold, stinging sensation. Macy smirked. "You're the first fool to grab my heavenly silkworm goo. Prepare to die from the poison." "No, you will dead-eye," Kiran replied, crushing the object in his hand. A crisp sound echoed as he snapped it. Macy, initially smug, spat out blood in disbelief. She stared at Kiran, stunned. Kiran remained cold. "I've spared you before, giving you chances, but you didn't take them." "You spared me?" Macy wiped the blood from her mouth, her smile mocking. "I wanted to learn your connection to Lady Meiji, so I didn't kill you." "But you've pushed your luck," Kiran said, his anger rising. "Do you think you can kill me?" Macy taunted, attacking Kiran. Kiran spread his arms wide, unleashing a torrent of red energy like a massive wave at Macy. She tried to dodge but was too slow. With a wet sound, Kiran's fingers plunged into her abdomen. "Ah!" Macy screamed in agony. She looked down, seeing blood pouring from her abdomen where Kiran's fingers had pierced. "Kiran, how did you do this?" she asked, shocked. "You don't deserve to know," Kiran replied, pulling his fingers out, drawing out a white, pearl-like object. Give it back, Kiran, Macy begged, weakened. You wanted to give the heavenly silkworm goo to Yvonne, right? Do it now, Kiran said, pushing the pearl into Yvonne's mouth. Yvonne, her hair frosty, mechanically swallowed the pearl and became eerily still. Macy screamed in despair, her body trembling violently. Kiran stared coldly at Macy. I don't care about your connection to Lady Meiji. You both deserve to die. Kiran, killing recklessly and crossing the line will lead to your own downfall, Macy gasped. Kiran slapped her twice. Who are you to say that? Remember, don't mess with me or you'll regret it. Kiran growled, gripping Macy's throat, his intent to kill evident. Just as he was about to snap her neck, he felt a sudden ice-cold sensation in his mind, rendering him momentarily powerless. He couldn't exert any force with his hands. Lady Meiji's sinister face appeared again. Chapter 918, Kiran, you can't kill her, Lady Meiji's voice echoed in Kiran's ears. Shut up. Who do you think you are? Kiran began, but then he felt a buzzing in his ears. He was suddenly paralyzed, unable to move. In that moment, Macy Wendell broke free and ran outside. Kiran could only watch helplessly as she escaped, unable to speak or even think clearly. Kiran, if you continue to displease me, I will turn you into a cripple, Lady Meiji threatened before her voice disappeared. Kiran stood there, unable to move. He realized that Macy Wendell and Lady Meiji were indeed two separate people, but he couldn't understand their connection. He was filled with rage and frustration, unable to do anything but stand there. Yvonne Quinn lay on the bed, also unable to move. Time seemed to stretch on until, after what felt like an eternity, Kiran's phone rang. It was Snow Xander calling. He wanted to answer, but he still couldn't move, growing increasingly anxious and helpless. He was shocked and even terrified by Lady Meiji's attack. An hour later, the sound of high heels echoed through the house. Honey, Snow's worried voice called from downstairs. Kiran wanted to respond, but he still couldn't make a sound. Footsteps approached the door, and soon the elegant figures of Lillian Jans, Snow Xander, and Lindsay Ludwig appeared. Kiran felt a sense of relief wash over him. Snow's eyes filled with tears of joy as she saw Kiran, and she rushed towards him. Lillian, however, grabbed Snow's arm and stepped in front of Kiran. She slapped him twice, hard. Kiran felt as if he had been released from an icy grip, regaining his ability to move and think. Thank you, Sister Lillian, he said, grateful rather than angry. He opened his arms, and Snow happily embraced and kissed him. Lindsay stood in the doorway, feeling a pang of jealousy and pain as she watched them. Lillian scanned the room before heading to a corner. She pulled out a dagger and sliced into the wall as if it were butter. With a clatter, a wooden box fell out. Lillian picked it up and placed it on the table. What is that? Snow asked curiously. Lillian shook her head and looked at Kiran. Wake up, Yvonne. Kiran tried to wake Yvonne by shaking her, but she remained unresponsive, almost as if she were dead. He checked her breathing, which was steady. Yvonne! Kiran called softly in her ear, but she didn't wake up. You need to use your energy to awaken her, Lillian suggested. Kiran felt awkward about kissing Yvonne in front of his wife and the other women, but Lillian explained, this box contains goo worms, which might help her recover. Relieved, Kiran leaned down and kissed Yvonne on the lips. The coldness made him shiver, but he quickly focused his energy. After about a minute, Yvonne moaned softly and opened her eyes. Seeing Kiran kissing her, she wrapped her arms around his waist and began to cry. Don't cry. Look at this box. Is there a heavenly silkworm goo worm inside? Lillian asked. Yvonne released Kiran and blushed when she saw Snow. She felt like she had been caught stealing something. Snow just smiled warmly, understanding the situation due to the love spell's effects. Yvonne walked to the purple box and gently touched it. Without opening it, she looked at Lillian and said firmly, There's goo poison inside, but I'm not sure what kind. Macy Wendell hid this here, so it must be important, Lillian pointed out. Yvonne nodded and placed her delicate hand on the box, opening it with a click. Inside, there were rustling sounds. Yvonne quickly reached in and grabbed 2 white goo worms, one in each hand. They were soft and slimy, exuding a strong aura of death. Her face showed shock as she instinctively looked at Kiran and Lillian. Lillian frowned. These could be Macy Wendell's life goo, one for life and one for death. As the saintess of the Maui tribe, Yvonne had also thought of this possibility. She said, Normally, both goo worms should be alive. Why is this happening? Kiran severely injured Macy. She's likely trying to heal herself, using up most of one worm's life force, Lillian explained. Yvonne understood and looked at Kiran, feeling moved by his actions. He had been willing to kill Macy out of anger. These goo worms would be a shame to kill, Yvonne said after examining them for a while. If you can tame the live one for yourself, Macy won't dare to touch you again, Lillian advised. Yvonne smiled with delight as she looked at the white cute goo worm in her right hand. We should leave now, Lillian said, turning to go. Snow and Lindsay followed her out. Kiran approached Yvonne and gently touched her shoulder. Be careful and don't take unnecessary risks. Your safety is the most important. Yvonne felt reassured by Kiran's concern and smiled sweetly at him. With this heavenly silkworm goo, we might be safer. Kiran didn't respond, only gently stroking her face. His silent care spoke volumes. Feeling encouraged, Yvonne nodded firmly. Kiran left the room, and Yvonne began figuring out how to tame the goo worm. Lillian stood by the window. Lady Meiji is strange, with powerful mental abilities, Kiran said as he joined her. Do you remember Axel Jan's? Lillian asked. Of course. His soul is sealed in the Dragon Soul Sword. It's unforgettable, Kiran replied. Lillian's beautiful eyes suddenly showed a deep, complex emotion. Chapter 919. Back then, Axel Janez perished in Sunland because he was attacked by Lady Meiji's powerful mental force, giving her the opportunity to strike, Lillian explained. Are you saying that Lady Meiji was involved in Axel Janez's death? Kiran asked, his voice filled with curiosity, hatred, and anger. Lillian nodded. Lady Meiji's mental attacks were so powerful that even Axel Janez's profound cultivation couldn't resist them. What chance do you have? Kiran felt a chill run down his spine, realizing just how formidable Lady Meiji was. Do you know anything about her? Is she human or something else? The key issue now is for you to improve yourself, Lillian said, avoiding Kiran's question. How can I improve? Kiran asked eagerly. Continue practicing the Joyful Odyssey. Once you've mastered all 7 levels, you won't be so easily attacked, Lillian advised. Kiran looked embarrassed. He had never fully mastered the Joyful Odyssey, but Axel Janez was so powerful and still couldn't resist Lady Meiji's mental attacks. Will the Joyful Odyssey really help? Kiran asked, frowning. He only mastered 6 levels. He didn't know the 7th level, which is why he was vulnerable, Lillian replied with a tone full of sympathy. Kiran was shocked. Lillian glanced at Kiran with disappointment. It's a good thing you have the love spell inside you. Otherwise, with all these women around you every day, I can't imagine how weak your willpower would be. Kiran blushed with embarrassment and had no response. The two fell silent. Snow Xander and Lindsay Ludwig stood at a distance, not wanting to disturb them. An hour later, Yvonne Quinn emerged from the room, her face still pale and bloodless. She was wrapped in a blanket instead of a coat, looking rather comical, but no one laughed. Let's go, Lillian said, leading the way downstairs. Seeing Yvonne's condition, Kiran went over and carried her in his arms. They all returned to Lindsay's villa. Yvonne went to change clothes. Kiran turned to Snow. Why did you come so suddenly today? The company is expanding into the pharmaceutical industry and plans to enter Dragon City. Lillian also said there was something urgent, so we came together, Snow explained, glancing at Lillian. Lillian's ethereal face remained expressionless. Kiran couldn't discern Lillian's thoughts and asked Snow, Isn't expanding into the pharmaceutical industry going to face competition from the Carter family? Yes, Snow admitted, looking a bit nervous. You should rest for a while. I'll take you to the Carter family's meeting today, Kiran decided, planning to take a direct approach to the competition. Snow, feeling tired, nodded. She looked at Kiran with longing eyes, hoping to spend some time with him. Kiran, feeling awkward with 4 women around, was especially uneasy after Lillian's remark about his weak mental strength. Why don't you take Snow for a nap? She hasn't been sleeping well lately, Lillian suggested, walking to a room. I need to get to work. You all take care, Lindsay said, looking sad as she waved to Snow and then left. With just Kiran and Snow remaining, Snow felt more at ease. Kiran carried Snow into a room. Snow wrapped her arms around Kiran's neck, her face glowing with happiness. Once in bed, Snow curled up like a sleepy kitten in Kiran's arms and quickly fell asleep. Kiran got up and went to the living room. Lillian and Yvonne were there, both looking very serious. They were surprised to see Kiran. I thought you'd be lost in your enjoyment, Yvonne teased Kiran, sticking her tongue out at him. What's the point if nothing can be done? Kiran muttered, feeling both frustrated and helpless. Is your only joy in life sleeping with women? Lillian asked, glaring at him. Kiran blushed and quickly said, I was just making a comment. That's your true thought, Lillian responded coldly. What do we do next? When do we go to Sunland? Kiran asked, changing the subject. Our trip to Sunland this time will be very risky, Lillian said, clenching her fists. Kiran nodded. We can't let Lady Meiji continue her tyranny, or we might all end up dead. Thinking about Lady Meiji's powerful mental attacks made Kiran uneasy. I'm not here to deal with Lady Meiji, Lillian said, looking at Kiran. Kiran was taken aback, staring at Lillian. This time, you absorbed the power of the Dragon Saliva. You should feel much stronger, right? Lillian asked. Kiran nodded. Much stronger, but unfortunately, Yvonne's portion of the power was absorbed by Macy Wendell. Your internal power is the main thing. Focus on that, Lillian said, her face thoughtful. I suggest you spend the next period practicing the joyful odyssey and searching for the remaining dragon veins. Where do we find the remaining dragon veins? Kiran asked. Lillian didn't answer but looked at Yvonne. You stay in Dragon City to protect Snowzander. Yvonne understood that Lillian was taking Kiran to find the dragon veins and nodded. Okay, Sister Lillian. Kiran also understood Lillian's intention and felt a surge of happiness. Kiran, spend today dealing with Snow's pharmaceutical business, and we'll leave tomorrow, Lillian instructed. Kiran knew that as the head of the Foxgate, Lillian would be well informed about the remaining dragon veins and felt a sense of anticipation. Don't worry, Sister Lillian, Kiran assured. Lillian turned and went into a room, closing the door behind her. Kiran looked at Yvonne. Yvonne shrugged and smiled. I won't be able to accompany you for a while. Take good care of Snow for me, Kiran said seriously. Don't worry, if something happens to her and you can't handle it, we might all be doomed, Yvonne joked. Kiran was left speechless and could only smile wryly. Yvonne walked over and gently hugged Kiran. Lillian is probably going to put you through some tough training. Your tough days are about to begin, Yvonne whispered in Kiran's ear. Kiran's heart raced. He had a feeling about what Lillian might do, but he wasn't sure. Kiran took out his phone and called Sophia Carter. Master, Sophia's voice was hoarse and low. I want to attend the Carter family meeting today, Kiran said. Sophia hesitated. My brother and I were planning not to attend and to cut ties with the Carter family. Didn't anyone from the Carter family come after your father died? Kiran asked. Sophia didn't answer but started crying. Kiran's eyes narrowed. The Carter family really lacked compassion. He grew cold. You both need to come with me. Sophia felt a comforting sense of happiness. Okay, Master, I'll go tell my brother. Come pick me up, Kiran said, sending her his location. Chapter 920. 1 hour later, Kiran, Snow, Sophia, and Joshua were sitting in the car heading towards the Carter family estate. After an hour's rest, Snow was rejuvenated, sitting beside Kiran like a high-born goddess, radiating elegance. Sophia sat in the front passenger seat, feeling a mix of emotions as she sensed Snow's aura from behind. She thought about Kiran's kiss, which filled her with both joy and sadness. Most importantly, she was unaware that her life essence was now within Kiran, only knowing that her thoughts were consumed by him. Master, is there any point in going to the Carter family now? Sophia asked, snapping back to reality and looking at Kiran. Today, you and Joshua are going to become the heads of the Carter family, Kiran said calmly and authoritatively. Sophia looked downcast with a hint of disinterest in becoming the head of the family. Kiran didn't respond, instead glancing at Joshua, who was gripping the steering wheel tightly, eyes focused on the road. After a while, Joshua spoke. Kiran, I want to be the head of the Carter family. Sophia turned to her brother, surprised by his sudden desire for the position. To support a family's destiny requires not only strength and ability, but also a broad mind, Kiran said, observing Joshua. If you want to be the head, you must have such a mind. Joshua nodded firmly. Kiran, rest assured, once I become the head, I will cooperate with Mrs. York's company to contribute to the development of Western medicine. Snow's face lit up with joy as this aligned with her goal to help Kiran. Sophia also looked at Kiran with hope. Kiran nodded approvingly. Then work hard. Make sure it happens. Thank you, Kiran, Sophia and Joshua said in unison. Kiran didn't say anything further. The four of them arrived at the Carter estate. Joshua drove directly into the villa. Since the guards recognized Joshua's car, they didn't stop them. Joshua parked the car and looked at Kiran for instructions. You two go to the family meeting first. I'll join later, Kiran told them. Joshua and Sophia understood Kiran's intention to let them see the true nature of the Carter family members. They nodded and got out of the car. Kiran and Snow stayed in the car, watching the entrance. In a temporary meeting area on a large lawn filled with tables, chairs, and red carpets, there was a festive atmosphere with laughter and chatter. Kiran spotted the family head, Nelson Carter, looking joyful and carefree, showing no signs of mourning his daughter's and son-in-law's deaths or his son's recent passing. Snow asked Kiran, "Is it appropriate for us to come here now?" Kiran held Snow's hand gently. Taking something at someone's peak moment makes it all the more satisfying. Snow blushed, thinking of her time with Kiran, and gave him a shy look. Realizing his words could be misinterpreted, Kiran smiled. "I didn't mean it that way." "Whatever you meant, we can't do anything now," Snow said, her tone filled with frustration and helplessness. Kiran felt sorry for Snow and held her hand tighter, falling into silence. Joshua and Sophia, looking disheveled with tear-stained faces, stood out against the joyous atmosphere. Seeing them, Nelson's face darkened. Joshua and Sophia felt hurt seeing their grandfather's reaction. They had informed him of their father's death, yet he showed no concern and now was celebrating happily. Joshua's fists clenched, more determined to become the family head. "What are you two doing here?" "This is a happy occasion," said a young man with gold-rimmed glasses, addressing Joshua and Sophia. "Toby Carter, this is a family matter, not your concern," Sophia retorted coldly. Toby sneered. "Isn't it a family matter if my last name is Carter?" He turned to Nelson. "Grandfather, listen to how ridiculous they sound." Nelson, displeased, looked at Joshua and Sophia. "Why aren't you at the funeral home for your father?" Joshua and Sophia felt even more pain. The sorrow of losing their father was met with indifference from their grandfather. Joshua, angry, said, "Why didn't any family members go to see my father?" "Because you're not part of our family," Toby mocked. "What did you say?" Sophia glared at Toby. "As a branch family member, who are you to speak?" Annoyed at being called out, Toby sneered, "I'm the future head of the Carter family. He's the successor?" Joshua and Sophia asked Nelson. Nelson, realizing the facade was no longer necessary, addressed everyone. "Today's meeting is to announce Toby as the future family head." Hearing this, Toby felt triumphant, looking down on Joshua and Sophia. Joshua and Sophia, filled with determination, realized attending the meeting was the right decision. They needed to make these people regret it. Thinking of Kiran in the car, they felt confident. Joshua told Nelson, "I hope you know who your real grandchildren are. Your mother killed your father. How can such a beastly woman's children be the head of our family?" Nelson said coldly to Joshua. Joshua turned pale with anger, feeling as if stabbed by needles. "Your whole family are beasts. Should we let beasts lead us?" Toby jeered. The rest of the family laughed loudly, mocking them. Furious, Joshua and Sophia were at their breaking point. "Then I'll show you what a beast is." Kiran's voice suddenly rang out.